Good morning and welcome to today's Lockdown Learning Free Business Continuity webinar. Today's topic is why responding to a cyber incident needs a departmental response and will be presented by BC Training and PlanB Director Charlie Maclean-Bristol. We'll have a Q&A section at the end of the webinar. To submit your questions, all you need to do is type in the question box on the control panel to the right of your screen, and these will be put through to Charlie at the end. You'll receive a recording of the webinar later on today in case you missed any of the content covered. So I think that we are ready to start. So I'll hand you over to Charlie. So Charlie, you have control. Let's just, right. So have we got something to see on your screen, please? Perfect. And you can get rid of the bottom bar. You know how much I love you getting rid of the bottom bar. Perfect.
Right.
Go.
Welcome to today's webinar. We've got the very fine title, or very rather long title, when responding or why responding to a cyber incident needs to be a department response. And what I've tried to do is tie this in with the BCI's theme, of which it is we are stronger together. So what we're going to do is just have a look at why you need a wider team in a cyber response. So it's going to take about half an hour, 40 minutes to share that with you. So what I'm going to go through is just have a look at when you have a cyber incident, what are the response tasks that need to be done? So what are you expecting you to, what are we expecting you to do? And then we are next going to have a look at what are the sort of teams and people involved with responding. And then always in business continuity, we always need to be looking for the opportunity. So what is the opportunity enhancement of reputation? Because just because it is a cyber incident, and I think I want to talk about how cyber incidents changes and people's perceptions of them are changing, then I want to have a look at, say, how you can use this as an opportunity. Just that, those wee logos, the GCHQ logos to our left, is that some of the slides and some of the content is taken from our 2-day managing preparing for cyber incidents, which is certified for GCHQ. So if cyber incidents takes your fancy and you want to learn more, especially about the reputation response, then come on our cyber response course. That's led by me, and it is going to take place in early September, either online, depending on where we are in lockdown, or face-to-face, depending on where we are in lockdown. Anyway, so right, let us start today. Right, contemporary cyber incidents. I think we're all very much the focus is on the news. If you have a look at news, webinars, everything is very much focused on the COVID response, not surprisingly. But I do think we have to, just because we got COVID doesn't actually mean that there isn't cyber incidents and or other incidents going on. I think I was looking at Michigan in the United States, and they were busy talking about flooding. So, and there's a big typhoon in Bangladesh at the moment. So, you know, just because the COVID is there doesn't mean to say disasters stop happening. And if you look at the sort of cyber incident landscape, there seems to be an increase in cyber activity and people trying to hack and make money out of cyber because they feel sort of people's eye is perhaps not on the ball in their cyber response. And secondly, because a lot of people working home, they work in a different way. They work with maybe technology they're not familiar with, so they may be used to sitting in front of a desktop with all the sort of security goes around it, and now they're working from home, perhaps on a laptop, then criminals seeing this as an opportunity to be able to take advantage and to hack people or to try and extort money or to trick them into handing over money. And I just picked up a couple of incidents which I thought were interesting. There's on the right there, we've got EasyJet, who most of us fly with EasyJet. And so we've seen that kind of a couple of days ago, they admitted that they'd lost information pertaining to 9 million customers. So that's a sort of mass market incident, and I think it was only declared 2 days ago, so we're busy sort of working through the response to that. And of course, I was looking at the news yesterday, and there's a whole lot of people coming on to say there've been sort of phishing attacks, and with the airlines at the moment, they've been distracted by a lot of refunds, and secondly, with refunds, people can then be tricked into saying, you get an email say you want your refund from EasyJet holiday, please can you give me your bank details so that we can process the repayment, because you're expecting a processed repayment, and then that can be used as a phishing email and to try and steal your money. So EasyJet, a mass market one. The one on the left is almost a little bit more interesting, is Grubman Shah, Waisless and Sachs. Now, these are entertainment media lawyers in the United States. Maybe, I think I saw on LinkedIn there's about 60 of them, but they have basically been taken down by a ransomware attack. But the interesting bit about their ransomware attack, and probably so they're entertainment and media lawyers, so they go and negotiate for Lady Gaga or Madonna, they go and negotiate contracts, and they're meant to be very, very good, and they're meant to be, the sort of top of their game, so all the kind of celebrities go to them. Now, they're slightly different from EasyJet. In fact, they're not mass market, but they had been ransomwared to extortion. So they weren't just random ransomware. They've been ransomware, so they're locked out of the system. So that's all you get of their website at the moment. And basically what they've done is that the people, as well as ransomwaring them, so locking them out of the system, has stolen their data and are busy saying, we're going to release your data bit by bit if you don't pay the ransom. And I think the ransom, as in yesterday or the day before, was at $42 million, which is quite a lot of money. And they some information, they released some of the file information, and then they were meant to release Lady Gaga's information all about her tours, to say, look, we've got this information, we're going to release it if you don't pay up. And actually the company not paying up said, actually now we're upped our ransom to $42 million. Interesting again, them in their terms of their communications is they're doing all their the only bit I could find of communications by the company was actually a Rolling Stone magazine. So they'd done an interview with the CEO in Rolling Stone magazine, and basically were saying, we're not going to pay the ransom because A, we don't pay ransom, and B, we're not allowed to pay a ransom. And these were the same people that attacked Travelex quite recently, and they were allegedly or rumored to pay about $2.4 million to get their data back. So I think my first point is from today's talk is to say this stuff is still going on in different ways in different places to different companies. And I think I want to talk a little bit later about, whether there's mass market communications v more niche market communications, but cyber incidents are still going on. One of the things I've noticed when doing the research for my cyber course was that these are two guides. This is the United States guide there, and this is the cyber. This is more UK centric. The response guides on cyber incidents are very much geared around the technical response. So how do you make sure that if you've got ransomware, how do you chase the people out? How do you secure your systems? How do you deal with it? And they're really good at that. But on the whole, they manage reputation. They say you got to do it, but they don't major on reputation management. And a little while ago, when I first started working on the course, I wrote to GCHQ and said, look, have you got any guidance on reputational management for cyber incidents? And again, they said they didn't have any management. No, these guys are aimed at the technical end as opposed to the reputational end, but there is very little, as far as I can see, written out there on reputational management of cyber incidents. There's lots of stuff on crisis communications and managing crisis issue, but very few on the slightly more niche bit of managing the reputational bit. And for me, in the end, it is not the actual being locked out of your systems or losing data that kills you. It's the end is the reputational management of these incidents, and that is going to be your defining moment to say, actually, did all your customers think you did a good job under difficult circumstances, or did they think you did a rubbish job? And that will then define again whether people want to deal with you in the future. If we come back to our media lawyers, then if they manage this well, some people will not want to go to them because the fact is they've had a cyber incident. But if you're in an industry where trust is very important, it's quite niche, and all the big stars go to it, I just sometimes wonder, it'd be interesting to see whether this, they suffer majorly from this incident, or if they manage it reasonably well with their key stakeholders, whether they can actually they keep going. So it'll be interesting to see this one. But response, my point here is response guys mainly on the whole deal with technical, because that's the area they're in, but there isn't that much guidance on cyber reputational management. And I think in cyber incident response, for me, there are 4 issues and managing a cyber incident. The first of all are 4 responses. The first of all is the IT incident technical response and recovery. So if you've lost data, then sometimes we lose data, the data's still there, you've just lost a set of it. So the IT response is about the forensics, and it is about making sure it doesn't happen again and blocking any routes that happen there. If you get a ransomware attack and all your systems are locked out, then it is about actually unlocking the systems, getting the systems back up and going, and making sure that you recover. So there is always that IT technical response, very obvious there, but there are 3 other bits which I think sometimes gets a little bit forgotten out. First of all is the reputational stakeholder management. Absolutely key in any incident, and cyber is no different, is this is what's going to define your success or failure. So we need to do that. We also need to do continuity of operations and business recovery. So if we've been locked out of our systems, we still need to manage our business, we still need to deliver to our customers, we still need to communicate with them, we still need to do all those sort of things. And so in certain instances, we've lost just a set of data, like what has happened to EasyJet. They're still operating, so continuity of operations is not a problem. The more the response is an IT technical one to make sure it doesn't happen again. But in terms of our lawyers, then their technical response is actually getting their systems up and going. And then there is the piece also with the statutory reporting called GDPR reporting. So there is a whole large piece about the GDPR reporting and the reporting to the Information Commission office by law, and also the sort of stakes when they're reporting there are pretty high. If we look at the fine to British Airways, about, I think it was £183 million, that's a fairly hefty amount of money for a data breach. So our ability to manage in this area can make quite a lot of difference. So those are the 4 incident response issues, and I want to just cover off them in my talk, the webinar this morning. The first of all is we need to fit our incident response into our incident hierarchy in our organization. So this is a little bit of a typical bit. So you've got your strategic team that does policy and usually your media management. You've done your tactical team, which coordinates, and it coordinates all the operational teams, and it will coordinate your support functions like your IT, your facilities management, your security, finance, HR. So it does coordination, and you can see here you've got your operational teams, which could be managing building burning down, or managing COVID, or it could be managing, the sharp end of there. And you've also got your IT technical teams. So a lot of the kind of NIST and the CREST book talk about IT technical teams, and you would have a sort of multi-IT technical team dealing with very, very focused on the IT recovery, but fitting within an incident management hierarchy. So you still need your tactical team and you still need your strategic team. You need them to recover. You can't just go and say, we'll get an IT tactical team and really they'll manage the recovery. Your recovery should fit within your strategic incident or your incident management hierarchy, and then that one was used. And it should be no different for a cyber incident than if you manage a major reputational issue or you manage a major IT outage, then the incident management response should be the same. If we move on to our tactical team, because this is at the heart of recovery, you'll have typically your team leader, your business continuity person, and your administration support or secretariat, whatever you're covering, supporting the team. And then you'll have, let's go from left, so we might have some operational people representative from all the different bits of the department there. Normally, particularly, you'll have some facilities management there. You'll have some finance, some HR. Your communications could live at this level. Sometimes it's managed at a tactical level. Sometimes communications managed at a strategic level, or it can be managed at a tactical and strategic level with the sort of tactical leisure doing the doing, and then the strategic level signing off and doing the sort of the overall strategy. And so these teams is coordinated. And then you've got your IT leadership. So you need to have your IT leadership embedded within your tactical team. And that IT leadership may be a little bit more than maybe your sort of CIO, or it could be some of you might have 2 or 3 different sort of flavors of in IT people there. So it could be, you've got maybe a cyber lead person there. You might have an infrastructure lead person there. So you might have some different IT people. You might also have some IT people. So the CIO could be at the strategic level and advising at that level. So you might have your IT people at your IT team, they might have the tactical team, and they might be the strategic team, or you might have your IT leadership at the tactical team. Depends on the side of your company and how you like to configure yourself. So I think my point is round about an all-team approach is you need to have your IT people embedded into your normal incident management hierarchy, and you shouldn't have a separate IT means of managing an incident. And sometimes if your incident management is very siloed, then what you end up with is the incident management or the kind of IT teams, what they do is they kind of have their own way of doing it, but they don't really sort of dovetail into the incident management piece. And if you wouldn't watch it, you would have a sort of separate IT hierarchy managing an incident, and then you could almost have another hierarchy, which is more of your crisis incident management, trying to manage the same incident with a slightly different team. So make sure that you go and speak to your IT people, speak to how they would manage a cyber incident, and make sure that what they're doing is not different to perhaps what you're writing, and either from your business continuity plans or your crisis management plans. So that is the sort of IT tactical, IT team managing the recovery and how they fit into an all team approach. If we're going to look at the reputation stakeholder management, I think we need to have a look at almost fundamentally how a cyber incident affects our incident management, affects our business model. And this is the same for any incident, but especially true of a cyber incident. If you're a mass market like EasyJet, all right, you have, you got your 9 million people who've got their data stolen, but how many people are actually really in the end when you need to go from Stansted to Glasgow are going to say, well, there's an EasyJet flight, or there's I don't think it's a British Airways flight there, but there's only really one way you can go is EasyJet. So you can go to Gatwick, you could go to London City, and you get British Airways, which are only twice the price, or you can go by EasyJet, that's 60 quid. So are you going to, because they have a cyber incident, are you not going to go with EasyJet? I think memories fade quick. If your market is a bit like the media lawyers, you might say, actually, we do have a choice, or we're just not going to go with those people because actually this is something that's very important to us, and we can't be seen to be, or we don't want to work with a company that loses our data. And I think it's also the loyalty of your customers. I would suspect and I slightly contradict myself here with my lawyers here, is I suspect there's probably quite a lot of loyalty from the celebrities to legal company, because they're meant to do really good deals. And I suspect celebrities are a bit wary of people who are trying to sponge off them, rip them off, kind of take advantage of them. So if they work with lawyers, and there's lots of money involved in sort of celebrity. So if they work with some good, decent lawyers, they might be more inclined to kind of say, well, look, these guys have tried their best, so we'll stick with them. Maybe new other celebrities might actually say, well, I don't want to go with them, or go with someone else. So I think in terms of stakeholder management, almost when you have an incident, whether it's cyber or other thing, is you need to look at your market model and say, how is this going to affect our business? Well, as a mass market, and we're sort of slightly much of, yes, if you're a commodity and you can actually go with two companies and you've had a cyber incident with one, you can go for the others. But if it's convenience, especially about the airline line, or you trust the company, you might actually overlook this as long as you manage the reputation well. So it'll be interesting to see more from the lawyer's point of view as how well they manage it and retain their customers. I think what is different about a cyber incident is how to managing a serious reputational incident when all your systems are down. So this is not in all cyber incident, but in many of the big cyber incidents happening to our media lawyers, is they've lost all their systems. So this is an answer for Hydro, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later on, is they lost all their system. They're an aluminium smelter in about 32 different countries. They lost their IT system, which also interfaced to their machines. So they kind of lost their entire production. So that is on day one. They took down their website and then replaced it with this sort of single page, no functionality website, but it's a picture there to say that they're up and going. So, and then they've got all the difficulties of, how do you communicate with your staff? And that's what they had to post on the door. is, you're communicating with staff is actually putting a notice on the door and then having floor walkers walk around the floors and saying, don't turn anything on because we've had a cyber attack. So how do you then manage your reputation when you've got no systems, you've got no access to all your mass email systems, your CRM, your customer relationship management system, your emails, your telephone list, maybe all the stuff even on your mobile phone. How do you do that? So in terms of communications or reputational management, cyber incidents can make this immensely difficult. But there is some really good practice out there. And this is a little bit of work. I looked at Dundee and Angus College, and they were cyber attacked earlier in this year. And one of the things, all their systems were locked out again, but they were straight on, or 2nd of February, they were straight on their social media channels, and they could access them out with their own systems. So they were really good at communicating. So you can see their Twitter feed here was telling all the students not to turn up on Monday, and the same information here, because you can't put that much information on Twitter. So they're using Twitter to inform Facebook, and then they've been very clear here to say that college will be closed, but they've also cleared about the gym and swim, and they are both Helping Hands nursery, and they're busy giving you data when they think they should be up there, and they're really good at putting, we'll post on our website, social media accounts at 4 p.m. Friday, 3rd of January. So really, really good at communicating. You see, you can have lots of shares and comments. They've obviously got lots of traction with this, but that's a really good example of good reputational management. Looked out your systems, you're using your social media channels there. So in terms of all-team approach, you need to get your communication peoples on board so that they know to manage this manage their social media channels if you have a ransomware attack and you can't get access to the rest of your systems. You can also see here in EasyJet, this came up on day 2. So on day 1, they had nothing on their front page. On day 2, they've managed to put this little bar here. And you can see they've obviously just sort of copied that COVID bar and put another one up here. So that if your information is mass market and you're mass market, 9 million customers affected, you really need to have mass market information. So this is available. So as soon as you go on the website, you can see this, you click through, and they've got EasyJet had a really good questions and answers. So every single answer you'd ever want, they've been able to put that through. But one of my points is in preparation in your websites, you need to think about is, can you do that easily on your website? And can you be able to do the click through, and can you generate the questions and answers? And you have to think about, if you have a cyber incident, you have to take down your website because it's on your system. So that's a plug. I don't sell that, but for an idea to have an externally hosted website, so you can separate it from your system, so you can still operate your website without your systems. My slightly counter to that is a lot of websites now are so interfaced with the company systems. It's not a matter of having a website separately and then the company systems that are actually terribly integrated. So it is more difficult to host an external website, but maybe you can have a dark website where you can switch over to, which you can use for holding information which is disconnected from your company systems, but it has the sort of functionality you want, like ability to hold question answers. Then you can put them up. That EasyJet can put this on their website because their systems were not affected. But one of the big issues for me in terms of reputational management is every time, not that we can book on EasyJet at the moment, every time I want to go, my customer is going to be booked on EasyJet and think about booking a flight, is going to see a site about cyber incident security. So they're going to think, oh, do I want to book with this company that, is reminding people all the time about cyber incident? So that's some of the sort of issues you've got associated with the reputational management. So if those are some of the issues, I think what really is important to me is that in cyber and almost all crisis management incident is you need an communications teams for dealing with that. I did an exercise a little while ago, and it was a smallish company, so maybe it's at 400 or 500 staff, and they had the crisis management team. They had one crisis, not a tactical and operational team, so they had the one crisis management team, senior executives, and they had their sort of Mr. PR there who was dealing it. But Mr. PR was trying to deal in this exercise, was trying to monitor social media, was trying to brief spokespeople, was trying to write media statements, was trying to write website copy, was trying to write Q&A for the people at the scene of the incident, trying to attend incident team meetings. And the poor guy was really, really struggling to cope. And it was very obvious to me and very obvious to him that he needed a team of people, and he had 2 or 3 staff, and he was saying, look, I need more staff. I need to have some people who are maybe not PR professionals or communication professionals, but who are just bodies who can help me, because, all right, in an exercise, things happen quicker than they would do in real life. But there needs to be a team approach. So some of the things we need to that team approach needs to be do is you need to manage your spokespersons. So you need to say, if you got an incident, it's more, I suppose, more general, an incident on site, you need to manage it, the site of the incident. But in a cyber incident, you're going to have your CEO or your CIO, so they need to be briefed. They had to have a script. They need to anticipate what the questions are. They need to decide upon how, and they might need to have some research done, or they might need to be briefed on particular IT aspects of the incident. Is data encrypted at rest? What sort of firewalls, or so that they can be asked the more tactical technical questions, and not be a bit like the famous article with Dido Harding and the Talk incident, is when she couldn't answer some of the technical questions because she didn't know, so that person needs to be briefed. You need to monitor your social media, see what social media is saying, so that's a sort of job in itself. You need to do your questions and answers. And if you've got call centers or you've got customer facing people, they all need to have those questions and answered. There needs to be a feedback loop as customers ask new questions, or stakeholders or regulators ask new questions, then those questions and answers need to be updated. And also someone needs to actually find out the information to answer them. You've got to update your website, as we're talking about. You might want to do videos. So if you look at Travelex, the CEO did a video, a YouTube video, did it after 2 weeks, which was particularly poor practice, but he did one anyway. So videos, again, is a good method of talking directly to your customers. But actually, to do a video, you need a script, you need a videographer, you need to get your CEO, whoever's going to do it, they need to practice it, they need to be natural at it, that needs to be produced, it needs to be hosted. So there's a whole load of tasks just producing, you always need a wee team just producing that video. Internal communications are absolutely key, making sure staff understand it, understand what's going on, you're a great advocate, and again, think about how you're going to do this if your systems are down. Then the Q's and A's, and just that, developing, updating materials, keeping stuff up to date is a big job. And then you've got all your sentiment monitoring as well. So what is the media doing, your clips? What are they saying about our incident on the news? What are they not saying? Are they not mentioning it in the news here? What are social media people saying? Do we need to take some sort of customer survey, or do we need to speak to the frontline people who are speaking to customers and saying, do customers notice? What are they bothered about it? What are their issues? You need to speak to your key stakeholders. You need to speak to your regulators, and again, so what I want to say is say that you can guess though what those jobs there, but you need to have a team of people to do them. You can't rely on one poor PR person to do it. And if you haven't got if you're not a massive company, if you haven't got tons of PR people, then some of these jobs can be done by sort of laymen and some of them are not that difficult, and then you use your PR people for maybe some of the more skills job, like writing things and constructing bits, or maybe it's the technical bits doing the website, and then you can the sentiments and those other tasks, speaking to people, can be done by more laymen. So those are some of the communications tasks. We then move on to continuity operations. So in our cyber incident, if nothing has been lost and our systems are all up and going, then this is not an issue. It could be a major issue if our systems are down. So we need to think about how we're going to manage a major incident, because this, with our media people, they looked at all the systems, they still need to deliver their service. So how they're going to actually do the service. So this is where you come onto your BCPs, your manual workarounds, your BIA for looking at the recovery options, and your prioritizations there, how quickly you can get your systems up and going. So all that BCP stuff may have to be deployed in response to a cyber incident. So again, you need that's just almost like a whole massive instance in its own bit, is responding to the incident, what is lost, and maybe using your business continuity plans for that. The last but not least bit of our kind of response is the ICO reporting, so Income Commissioner's Office reporting. As we all know, we need to report it under GDPR. So it's a statutory responsibility, and it's, if you look on the right there, within 42 hours. Now, it's interesting that, and I don't know the full story here, is EasyJet had to discovered the breach, and they'd been in their systems for a while in January, but only had to report it now. Now, I'm not quite sure what the reason for that was, and it seems like they were doing some investigations, so they didn't really know. Because with data loss, it's more difficult to know whether it's gone because it's still there. So, I think there was quite a lot of work to work out what actually happened, but they would be in communications with the ICO to say whether they did that back in January and the ICO said that only now you need to tell people, or whether they felt they didn't have to do it until then because they didn't know what the situation was. I don't know. But I think ICO reporting, and you can see with the huge big fines for I think it was Equifax, and I know it's definitely British Airways, that you get some huge big hefty fines. So getting this piece right is very important. And you can see on the right, you've got to do what has happened. So you need your IT people to tell you that. You need your IT people to tell you how that was found out there. You maybe need your IT people, but you might need your customer relationship people and people who understand all the different systems and all the different information you hold. So that could be a whole business response there. Then you need to decide upon what you're doing about it, and then you need to have all your communications with people. So again, to me, that's quite a big job, and it's a job which probably needs to be delegated to senior manager. Maybe you've got compliance people whose job it is, who understands this, or specialists in this. Otherwise, you might need to bring in external help. You definitely need your IT people to understand some of the technical aspects of it. You might need your business leaders there, and if you might need lawyers as well. But this is, there are big impacts if you get this wrong. So again, you need to have this all team approach, and there needs to be this is a major bit of your response, and you need to make sure this is managed properly and the information is done properly. So if I can just sort of recap before I go on to opportunities. So we've got our IT teams, and they need to be integrated into our structure there, our incident management structure. We've got our reputational management bit, and we can see the different communication tasks that there is. So that team needs a large team response, and think about how to do it if you haven't got all your resources there. we might need our whole business continuity hierarchy for responding if we need to use our manual workarounds and we're not operating without any IT because we've been locked out of it. Other cyber incidents, we might not need to use that system at all. And then for the ICO reporting, very critical, make sure we need to get sure that right. So we need communications, we need lawyers, we need compliance people, and we need the business to understand the information there and make sure our information is reported. So a whole team response. And I think I'll just let you read that quote there. And for me, if you can read quickly, he's all about this idea of, you know, if we were hacked before, it was a terrible thing, and you know, the few that talk is sort of like the poster child of cyber incidents, who the ones sort of everyone quotes. But nowadays there's so many cyber incidents, and they sort of roll on that, you know, it's less of a kind of, ooh, that's a terrible thing that's happened. It's more like there's an awful lot about and you've caught it. Sounds like something else there. So yes, I think there is still in cyber, there is a piece to say, actually, if you're cyber attacked, then there is always a nagging bit in people's minds say, well, were you properly prepared? And actually, had you managed your systems back? Now, I think we know that, you know, in the end, if somebody really wants to get it, a government state, national state really wants to get something or get you, they pretty much can, especially if you're not a kind of very high-end defense contractor. Then, you know, if they want to get the more mundane companies like ours, if they want to, they can probably get it. So I think this bar is to say people accept it, but I think people, as this quote goes on to, it's more about managing the incident and managing it well, that you can come at the reputation. And I just sort of contend to you, these guys, Hydro, and one of the things that they did brilliantly was they were very open and honest about their attack. Now, again, we're dealing with an aluminium smelter here, so you know they don't carry tons of personal information, and you know it's not affecting the mass population, so they're in a bit of a better place about, because it's not harming the mass populace, it's harming their customers. But what they're brilliant at doing is being very open, honest about it. They're Swedish, I think. So sorry, Norwegian. So again, Scandinavian, honest about it. They did things like invite journalists to come and look at their response, you know, not keep the journalists at the gate or no comment. Is they actually invite journalists to come and see, come and look at how we're responding. And they had a good response in terms of they could show that they were doing things manually. They got the old boys in there who could do it manually. They got the calculations out so that they could calculate things, and they did their business manually. But it was a good story, and they had a really good story about how people, you know, work the weekends, they miss their daughter's birthday so that they could come in and help, and people from the finance department, you know, coming down to the shop floor to come and help. And if you look around Hydro, they did a really good, nice little neat video about it, which they showed. And it was a really good feel-good video about, you know, how the company all pulled together and we all worked together to solve this problem, and really good publicity and PR, and they had very little criticism. Now they're starting in a good place, and as I say, their incident didn't affect max market. They're not going to end up with a whole lot of phishing attacks because of they'd be locked out of their systems. But you know, you can look at an opportunity, and I think they would have ended up with their reputation with their customers, because their customers kind of slightly, I suspect, think they, by the grace of God, go I. They can do there. So have a look at it. I'm sure if you put Hydro on YouTube, you'll find it quite a nice little video, 5 minutes or so. So you kind of come away feeling kind of, yeah, good. So there is an opportunity in this, and there's a company that did it well if you can do that. So, oh, that was the video. That was the video stuff. It's obviously embedded in my slide there, but I'll not let you watch the video there. So, thank you very much. So we talked about all the different teams and the responses and how it's very much a team. It's, you know, it's like all incidents, you need a team response. But I think if I'm going to say anything to do, you know, to take away, to say, is go and look at your own response and say, is this kind of confined to IT, or is this seen as a whole company response? Now, I think most companies are coming around to this idea to say, cyber is not just an IT issue, it's a company issue. But I think there are still people out there who just think it's, you know, it's an IT problem. The CEO is just going to sit there and wait for someone to tell him or her, yeah, it's sorted, boss. You know, we can get on with work. It's not going to work like that. So, are there any questions? Let me find the questions here. So, there any questions? Type away, and I will endeavour to answer them.
Right, so I think we are going to, unless anyone sends through a question in the next couple of seconds, we will. No, I think we're just gonna finish up, unless.
So
yeah. So I'm just going to say, yeah, great. Thank you very much for that, Charlie. Another great session. Thank you to everyone that attended and listened in. As I mentioned earlier, you'll receive a recording of the webinar later on today, and this will be emailed to you via GoToWebinar. So thank you for joining us, and we look forward to meeting you on the wire next time. Thank you.